Oh,
Do not press
Wow. Wow. That is interesting. No one ever thinks that my speaking is that important, so I'm going to relish this moment. So I'd like to convene first kickoff meeting of the Energy and Technology Committee, and I want to say that I'm very grateful to be back here for this meeting. And although we have a new leadership team, there are a lot of familiar faces on this. Certainly Representative Ferraro, who turned out to be a great friend over the last 4 years. And my hope is that this committee works the way it has always worked, which is in a broad bipartisan way, that we listen to each other. No ideas are bad ideas. We're going to try to work together and get as many bills done that make sense, that that work in the best interest of the ratepayers of the state of Connecticut. Oh, yeah, there you go. Thank you. Oh, now you know who I am. Obviously, there's a lot going on in the energy world right now. There's obviously the big rate increases that have hit on the standard service rates have been very painful for consumers. And there's also a lot of conversations about grid reliability, which we've been talking about for several years, that we really need to begin to address this year. I don't think I want to spend a lot of time talking. This is really just a kickoff meeting. I'm going to turn this over to my new co-chair, Representative Steinberg.
Thank you, Senator Needleman. And I want to start by saying how much I look forward to working with you and with the ranking members in this entire, albeit a little small committee, in tackling some of the biggest issues that Connecticut has to face right now. As has been said, I'm Jonathan Steinberg. I'm serving my 7th term representing the town of Westport, Connecticut. This is also my 7th term on the E&T committee. I distinctly recall when I first became attracted to the committee. I was a representative-elect back in 2010, and I went to the League of Conservation Voters annual summit, and there was this dynamic professor from Yale named Dan Esty, who was talking about energy policy and innovation. And perhaps unlike all the other representative elects who were there, I was actually captivated by the prospect and resolved to join that committee as soon as possible. And it came an interesting time. Representative Piscopo will remember how interesting it was back then when we brought forward the landmark bill 1180, which both established DEEP, and Dan Esty ended up becoming that first commissioner of the new combined entity. And I actually had a chance to contribute a little bit to that landmark legislation. Those were very heady times, and I view that in many ways as a high point for Connecticut in terms of energy innovation and momentum. And I think it's been a little bit more checkered since then, and we'll see if that's about to change. As I said, I've been on this committee for 12 years, and I'm just about getting to the point where I think I know a little bit about what I'm talking about, just a little bit. It's tough. It's a fast changing landscape. It's complicated. It's plain out esoteric. And yet there's so much at stake for all of our citizens. We have to find a way to all become educated. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And we have to find a path to our energy future, which not only protects all of our citizens, but also promotes economic vitality. And that is no mean feat, as we've discovered. So just everybody agrees that energy policy is complex, but it doesn't mean that people are necessarily all that interested. People don't want to get into the weeds. I look around the room here and I'm beginning to think that maybe these are the people, the legislators, who drew the short straws. We're a small committee, but I want to thank everybody who has volunteered, presuming you did volunteer, to be on the committee, because we're going to count on all of you to do a lot of hard work, do your homework, do a lot of listening, and help us wrestle with the broad implications of high rates and supply issues and environmental concerns, resilience and reliability. All those things are our responsibility. And I should also throw in, we've got this thing called broadband. We ought to do something about it as well. And we're going to spend a fair bit of time talking about broadband access and speeds and equity and fairness when it comes to access to the internet. We're going to owe everybody in Connecticut an explanation. We're going to have a process here, which we will start shortly with informational forums on a variety of topics. There will initially be the intention to educate those of us on the committee, but also our colleagues in the legislature and ultimately the public at large. We have an obligation to explain to people how we got to where we were, where we are today, what choices we made, what trade-offs, what risks we inherited, what we've been able to do or might still do to mitigate some of the worst impacts of this huge rate increase. But most importantly, to have an ongoing dialogue about how we're going to go forward and chart a path to a better energy future for the state, where we have some measure of control and agency over our future, but we're also honoring all the things that we've promised to the people of the state of Connecticut. So, I hope you all brought your helmets and seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but I think we'll all find this challenging but educational as well. That's it for my maiden speech, if you will. I would like to, we're going to go around and have each legislature introduce themselves, but let us start with our ranking members. Why don't we begin with Senator Fazio, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself. Maybe you can even tell us whether or not you elected to be on this committee versus being dragoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very excited to be here and join the Energy and Technology Committee as a ranking member. I represent Greenwich, Stamford, and New Canaan. And I actually did request to join this committee because obviously energy costs are the top of mind for not only my constituents, but families all over the state. This rate increase that's pending before Connecticut families right now is really going to hurt people, families and businesses. But Connecticut's energy costs have been far too high for far too long. And I'm very encouraged that everyone on this committee is ready to collaborate and work hard in order to ensure that we can reverse those trends. We have a major term ahead of us in order to accomplish those goals. But I'm encouraged by both the comments of leadership and the conversations we've had, and the willingness to focus on substance and collaboration and being as constructive as possible in order to make our grid as affordable as possible, more reliable, and maintain environmental standards as well. So I'm excited to join the committee and appreciate the comments of both chairs as well.
Thank you, Senator Fazio. And I think up next is Representative Buckby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. I have to say, I said this earlier today, it's so great to see people in 3D now as opposed to 2D. Not to be technical here in the technology committee, but it really is fantastic to see people again. Is my colleagues both sides of the aisle, upstairs and down, but to see all of you here in the room too, it's encouraging. I want to echo the comments made before me and the ranking from the ranking as well as from the chairs. We've had some great conversations already between leadership and frankly, I'm encouraged. I think everyone wants to see some changes. I think nothing is immediate that we can do. And I think the important thing that my good friend from Westport here mentioned earlier was that we need to educate ourselves. We need to educate each other. For me, years ago, I'd say in a past life, I worked for third-party suppliers. I'm not connected to them anymore, but I bring that piece to the table here. I also want to make sure that I certainly recommend and commend the work done by my predecessor, Charlie Ferraro, did a great job with this committee, as well as Tim Ackert prior to that too. We've had some great people on this committee on both sides of the aisle. I know there's some new faces here as well that I look forward to working with. But I think we have a great bunch of people here that are dedicated to doing what's right by the people of the state. I'm not here to look to lay blame. I'm not here to throw bricks at anybody for the problems we have, but we have problems that we have to address immediately. I think this committee is probably the most pressing. It's going to be the most vocal. I think it's going to be the most yelled at in the building. for the next couple of years until we get this straightened out. And I think that's on us to make every attempt to straighten this out, not just everyone at this table, but the people who are interested in stepping forward and doing the right thing and reducing the costs and getting ourselves out of the basement of this country as far as energy costs go. I don't think it's acceptable. And I think we need to step up our game and do what we can on our side to work with those people within to correct this for everybody, not only on cost. Certainly, we want to make sure we keep everything green. We want to keep the lights on for everybody, and we got a lot of work ahead of us. So all of us can sit here and talk all day, but we don't want to do that. We want to get to work too. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. I do want to mention Rep. Ollie Brennan, who was also the vice chair for 2 terms that we were here before, also did a great job. Next, Vice Chair Senator McCrory. I don't know if he's on via Zoom. Senator?
He's not on yet. He's not
Okay.
on right now.
He's not on right now. Nope, okay. Rep. Foster.
Hi, everybody. I am Jamie Foster. I am the representative proudly serving Ellington, East Windsor, and some of Vernon. And I am really excited to be here today. I think when I started being a legislator, I thought that my expertise would lend to leadership in public health, where my PhD is. But I found quickly that you can learn a lot in short order by reading energy textbooks. Never did that, read a textbook cover to cover in my actual PhD program, but can now say I've done that on energy policy. It's been a real doozy of a summer, not a ton of fun. So I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of partnerships are available to bring exciting opportunities. And although I think there is some doom and gloom ahead of us, there's also some really exciting opportunities. Green energy incentives are funded in the IRA that I think give really great state opportunities. It's a lot to read through that document, but I think there's some great opportunities on our horizon. And I think that Connecticut is positioned, hopefully, to expand on some programs that we're doing really, really well. And I know we talk a lot about energy policy, but we made some really good policy changes last year in the water sphere. And I'm really excited to continue that work also, because clean, accessible water through our publicly regulated water utilities is also a priority of mine. So I'm happy to be here today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Representative Foster. I think we're going to alternate working our way in. So Representative Eckert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's an honor to be here back on energy and technology. I'm entering my 7th term as a legislator, same as a representative for the 136 that came in together. Honored to be back on the committee that I was honored to be a ranking member of. My focus is going to be a little bit different. I do represent the 8th district, the new 8th district, which is Coventry, Columbia, Bolton, Lebanon, and Tallinn now after the redistricting. Yeah, it's like a Senate district. But my focus is, as mentioned by the representative from the 57th district, we have money coming in the state of Connecticut to do some good work, whether it's solar, electric car chargers, heat pump systems, electric infrastructure. We don't have the workforce to handle it. And that's shame on us as the state of Connecticut. There's a way to get by that. And I'm working forward to do that, that we can create the workforce to implement all the good things that this committee is going to do this year, and making sure they get over the finish line and getting this infrastructure put in the state of Connecticut. So we're working forward to working with the committee on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Somebody who actually knows something about electricity from the bottom up, but knows what an electron passing across a wire is always helpful to have on the committee. So, Representative Piscopo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and hello, everybody. It's good to see you all out here. Happy to be here. John Piscopo, representing Thomaston, Harwinton, Burlington, part of Litchfield. I was one of the nuts that asked for this committee. I do enjoy it, and I think if we learned anything just last fall, meeting our constituents, is just how important energy is to them. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you, try and find an abundant, low cost, reliable sources of energy for our constituents. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Representative Ali Brennan.
Good afternoon. I am Representative Rahab Ali Brennan from the 2nd District. I represent my hometown of Bethel and Danbury. I was vice chair of the committee for 4 years, worked with Senator Newman and Ferraro. It was a great experience. Before that, I worked in the U.S. House of Representatives as a policy advisor on energy, so I do enjoy energy policy. I do see Senator Maroney's here, so I look forward to talking about technology this session. But also, I'm not sure if some of you know, but the speaker has asked me to chair a select committee on sustainable and renewable energy. So I know we have a tall order here, so I look forward to using that committee to support the efforts here and being collaborative. So it's an exciting year, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Meskers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Representative Meskers from the 150th District. I represent a third of the town of Greenwich. The population of the town is about 60,000, hence we're divided into 3 districts. My concern, and I did ask to join energy and technology yet again this year. I can't think of a more fascinating and interesting committee to belong to. Energy in and of itself is a simple issue. It's generation and transmission. The problem is, how do you get it done right and get it done at the right price? And how do you make it sustainable? And how do you make the reliability? And how do you end up with the right level of storage component to reduce peak demand? I mean, those in broad terms sound like pretty easy concepts, but like the textbook one of my colleagues spent the summer reading, it's going to take us a long time to get the story right. I would tell you that I've spent a fair amount of time with the chair of PURA, and I just want to thank her for the efforts that she's initiated, a lot of the stuff in terms of taking back the grid and initiating some of the strength. And I look forward to more reform process to get us to a cheaper place on energy.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Cheeseman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Representative Holly Cheeseman of the 37th District, which is East Lyme, Salem, and Montville. I'm delighted to be back here for my 4th time in my 4th term. I've asked for it out of the chute as a freshman, and I've never regretted it. I join with everyone in embracing the challenges before us, and I think let's not underestimate both the ingenuity of this committee and the ingenuity of the powers that be. The biggest problem facing municipalities at the turn of the 20th century was what to do with all the horse manure. We're familiar with that in this building. And what came along? The internal combustion engine. I think we're seeing so many exciting developments, particularly with regard to generation, whether it's small modular reactors, Connecticut being part of a hydrogen hub. So I think that the question for us and the goal for us is getting us to the place where we can access and use this new technology in a way that maintains an affordable, reliable grid, because electricity is what powers us and makes our lives possible. So we need to be here to make sure that happens. And I thank you, and I'm so looking forward to working with everyone here again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Cheeseman. Senator Maroney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Senator James Maroney from the 14th District, which represents Milford, Orange, West Haven, and Woodbridge. I was excited to be here, but quite frankly, now I'm a little bit scared. I've stayed off of public health because I thought that was the most yelled at committee in the building, but now I find out I'm going to be on this committee and get the most yelled at. So I did ask to be here, but I am second guessing that. However, I am excited to learn. We know how important this is to the future of the state. And as Representative Ali Brennan mentioned, I am interested in seeing us do more in regards to technology as well as energy. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. It's interesting. Representative D'Amico.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Mike D'Amico. I represent the 21st District, which is Farmington and only Farmington. So I don't have to memorize a whole bunch of towns. Makes it easy. So this is my sixth term in the legislature, and it will be my fifth term on the Energy Committee. And ever since my sophomore term, I have asked to be on this committee because, as Chair Steinberg mentioned at the beginning, it is a challenging committee, and I enjoy a challenge. And the challenge is no different today than it was 10 years ago when several of us got started here. We know that our constituents want affordable energy, but they also want it to be clean, and they also want it to be reliable. And someday some genius is going to figure out a way to make all those three things come together at once. And I think that's probably our biggest challenge: affordability, clean energy, and reliable energy. And that's what we need to work towards. The other issues that have been mentioned are certainly important as well on the technology side, but I think energy is going to be the most important challenge that we face this year, and I look forward to it. And I always enjoy the what's the word? The robust discussions that we have in this committee, and I look forward to it again. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Robust is an interesting way to put it. I appreciate that. Try to keep the atmosphere light, knowing that we probably have some of the most difficult subject matter to deal with in the General Assembly. But you know what? I think we managed to do that. Representative Horn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I join all my fellow gluttons for punishment in being voluntarily here. This committee does do some critically important work, and I join in all of the concerns that have been raised before, but do want to highlight also broadband, access to broadband, particularly, to Representative Ackert, and I think others point there are federal resources coming to the state, and it is incumbent upon us to make sure that those resources address the deficits in terms of infrastructure and in terms of equity. So that's one of the reasons that brought me to this committee, and it's keeping me in my seat. So nice to see you all. Thank you. Oh, I represent the 64th district, which includes Salisbury, Sharon, Kent, Cornwall, Canaan, North Canaan, Norfolk, Goshen, and Washington.
Wow, that was good. Thank you so much. Representative Ferraro.
Thank you, Senator. And it's great to be back on energy and technology. This will be my fifth term, my fourth term on energy. And I think back on the early days and the learning curve. So I do not envy any person who's on this committee for the first time. The learning curve is really quite steep, but it's worth it, because one thing you will have noticed by the people who have spoken today, the brain trust of this committee is, I think, second to none. The dedication and the level of knowledge and the investment in years and time to learn this subject matter always impresses me. I'm looking forward to working with the new leadership as well as the old. I'm, as a former ranking member, I'm always here to help any way I can. And I do look forward to the continuation of the legislation that has come out of this committee, which has been very bipartisan in nature. And we have been, and I'm always amazed on the floor of the House, we've been very fortunate that almost every bill comes out of this committee gets voted in the affirmative unanimously. That speaks to the amount of work that leadership has done to make sure that the legislation appeals to all sides. And I hope we continue that going forward. And I just want to thank all the folks that have come back and all the new people coming on this committee. We've got a lot of work to do. As far as the yelling part of it, that never bothered me. I come from a karate background. That's all we do is yell. And the other thing is this committee got smaller. And there's a reason why it got smaller, because they know the 20 people on this committee can take it. We can handle it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Ferraro. And it was great working together for the 4 years that we did. And I agree that I hope that we can continue in that same spirit. My partner in crime and garbage, Representative Gresco, is up next.
Intro. Quite a partnership here.
Literally garbage, by the way, trash.
There's yeah, what do you say after that? But Mr. Chair, new Mr. Chair, it's good to see you in that seat. State Representative Joe Gresco from Stratford. I've served on the Energy Committee every session I've been here. It's by choice. The material is quite fascinating if you give yourself a couple of breaks here and there while you're reading it to try to absorb all the information. If you can't understand it, don't feel like it's on you, because it's a tough lift and it takes a while for it to sink in. But I can't top anybody else's comments, so I'm just going to leave it there and look forward to a what was it, Mike, robust session going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gresco. I'm going to just circle back, see if who's online that's on the committee, so they can introduce themselves. Senator McCrory, are we on? Okay.
Senator McCrory is still not on.
Nope. Senator Cabrera.
Not yet. We have C.C. Maher and Rep.
Okay, Senator Maher, welcome. Newly elected Senator Maher, and
thank you so much, Chairman. I am delighted to be here. I actually did ask to be a part of this committee, and am very interested and excited about working with all of you to respond to the needs of our constituents. Certainly the pricing on technology is tremendously high. We're seeing the impact on families. And so I echo all of my colleagues in their comments. And I wanted to also mention the importance of equity in broadband and making sure that everyone has access to the internet, because it is the driver of our society these days. And not being able to connect is incredibly important, and we do need to use those monies wisely. So thank you, Representative Horn. I'm on the same page. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you, Senator. Representative Chursak. Representative Mushinsky.
Representative Brzezinski, please unmute yourself.
Hi. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Representative Mary Mashinsky from Wallingford. I am homesick, so I won't be coughing on you guys and getting you sick today on Zoom. I asked to be on the committee. I think it's a great committee, important for the state's future. And everybody on the committee knows that we have expensive electricity here. And I've been participating in National Conference of State Legislatures as well on energy topics. And I brought back for the committee a new report, which is about federal resources for state lawmakers in the energy field. So these are all the things we can fund with federal money if we want to take them on. And they include things like energy efficiency, demand response, energy storage, wind, solar, hydroelectric, nuclear, electric vehicles, chargers, software, and the workforce training that Representative Acker pointed out. So I will give the committee the link to this report, but I hope what we will do this year is make the most of all the federal dollars that came in the Inflation Reduction Act that are designated for energy and technology, and I hope we will make the best use of that. My town is a municipal utility, so our rates have always been somewhat lower than the investor-owned utilities, but nonetheless, we will be affected by whatever happens to the producers and carriers that send us electricity. So I'm hoping to give this information out, and I hope that we'll chase down every federal dollar we can get and invest it in Connecticut. So looking forward to a good year, and welcome to our new House Chair of the committee. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Mushinsky. couple more comments. I don't think I actually introduced myself. I'm Senator Norm Needleman. Represent the 33rd. I will not go through the list, but I represent 12 towns in the Connecticut River Valley. I love them all. They're all different. I may be the only senator that doesn't represent any city. And that gives me sort of a slightly different perspective. Also, the first selectman of the town of Essex and own a manufacturing company in Connecticut and Michigan. And I love this committee. It is intellectually a very heavy lift. And we have a lot of work. And I think somebody said the intellectual horsepower sitting around this table is quite substantial. And that's good because we need it. Just to reiterate, there are no bad ideas. There are no nothing that's not worthy of a conversation here. I think that we're all trying to move this state and the region in the same direction. I do believe that the governor is focused on this particular area, so I expect that our partners in the executive branch, namely Pura and Deep and the Office of Consumer Counsel, our Consumer Counsel advocate, Claire Coleman, happens to be here in person. Thank you for all your hard work. We're going to see a reasonable amount of thoughts and ideas. And I also share the concern about equitable access to broadband and other technologies. So I think having Senator Maroney on this committee represents an invaluable opportunity. Plus, we share an office together, so we do talk a lot. And then I wouldn't be remiss if I didn't thank our long-term members of OLR, Office of Legislative Research, Lee Hansen, Mary Fitzpatrick, and our excellent LCO, Jack Mitchell, who keeps us on track and will always tell me when I make a mistake, which is frequent. So
Doing pretty well so far.
I'm doing okay, right? Thank you. It's first time without Representative Arconte here. I'm a little shaky. And I do want to do a shout out to Representative Arconte and Senator Formica for unbelievably productive years. You know, when you work this closely with people, you get to be friendly with them. And already worked on relationships here amongst the leadership, which I think will be the basis of coming up with sound, sensible legislation that helps solve problems that we're yet to encounter and maybe fix some of the problems that have happened over the last two and a half decades. So I don't think we have another meeting scheduled right now.
Glad to address that.
Yeah, but I think Representative Steinberg has some other comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As one of the B committees, we have a relatively early JF deadline, which is the middle of March. And that means that we have to hit the ground running pretty fast. As you heard me allude to earlier, we hope to start with a number of informational forums that will allow us to level set, hear from all the experts, all the interested parties, so that we're all on the same page and can carry on an intelligent, thoughtful conversation from that point. We have tentatively scheduled a meeting, I believe, in 1C on the 17th. That's Tuesday, January 17th at 2 p.m. Conceivably, it could be one of our informational forums at that point, or perhaps a committee meeting. We intend ideally to get these informational forums out of the way this month, if we can so arrange, because it will facilitate the rest of our conversations. Though the chairs and the rankings hold out the prospect of additional informational forums through the session, even maybe after our deadlines, if it could help us understand better some of the thorny issues that we're facing as a state. To respond to Representative Ackert, I have had a conversation with Commissioner Dykes, and one of the things that I've asked for is a better understanding of how the state intends to approach the availability of federal funds, both in terms of those things that are allocated to the state on a state-by-state basis, but also the ones which are competitive and we will need to apply for to make sure that we are nimble and timely in taking advantage of every federal dollar on the table that suits the needs of the people of the state of Connecticut. So we will be utilizing our Tuesday, Thursday slots quite regularly. Bless you. However, we may also look at some Monday, Wednesday, Fridays in order to supplement our calendar. And so we can get things done. We will try to give you as much advance notice on those dates as we can and hope to really sort of nail down the calendar in the coming weeks. We will not have a lot of hearings. You know, I'm going to address Senator Maroney. I am the former co-chair of the Public Health Committee. I am not the reason people are coming here to yell. I want to make that clear. But suffice it to say, I'm used to having a lot of long public hearings. Anybody want to do 24 hours? I don't think so. We hope to have relatively few public hearings, but very targeted. And that's really on us. We have to make sure we're prepared for the meetings, asking good questions, and stay very focused on the matter at hand. But we will try to get the calendar to you very shortly so that you can plan your days accordingly. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, again, I want to thank everybody. This is, you know, in the introductions, I think the thing that's on most people's minds right now is the impact of the high rates for the next 6 months. And we really need to keep that front and center. There's a lot of explanations for what happened. We need to make sure that this does not happen again. And that will be something that we're going to address in this session. Hopefully, we had a standard rate system that worked generally okay until this past 6 months, this 6 months that we're in, and something happened. We'll talk a lot about it amongst ourselves and in the public eye. We're going to get a lot of questions about it. I think the first thing to stay focused on is there anything else we can do to help people and make sure that no one goes without heat, no one goes without electricity. Stay focused on the people that this is impacting in the most negative way, because it's a really, really serious problem and the public is screaming about it for good reason. So somewhere out of everything we do, I hope we're going to be able to fix this so that it does not happen this way again. I think with that, I'm going to, if anybody has any final thoughts, comments, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn the committee meeting.
So moved. We don't need a second.
We don't need a
Is there a
second.
second? Oh.
We are adjourned. Thank you.